Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Back again. Welcome once again to another ZRL pre-race show. I'm here as always, joined with Drip. Drip, welcome. How are you doing on this fine evening?
I'm doing all right. Just finished watching the actual F1 race,
True.
and that was quite a show.
It was.
Um, yeah, gives me
Interesting
a lot of
strategies, huh?
prospect for,
Yeah.
quite a lot of strategies all over the boards. Uh, Tips
Let's.
to Ferrari. Try
Yeah.
something else, literally anything else.
Oh man, I mean,
But
just
gives
commit,
good prospect for tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's gonna be exciting for sure. We were super hyped up for Bahrain. Bahrain turned out to be quite the race. Very exciting last few laps. Hard racing, and I think we're hoping to see tight racing around Hungary. Lots of DRS trains, but I think most importantly, it's gonna be who keeps it on track because throughout D3, D4, D3, and D2, we've seen that most overtakes or track positions that drivers have gained have been, well, I think 60% the driver that the driver has gone off road, and 40% have been overtakes, I guess. So, um, how hard do you think these D1 drivers are gonna push the track limits in order to find time?
I I think it's going to be right at the very, very limit. These guys are
All
going to
right.
be getting every last centimeter of track that they can to try and get as much speed through a corner, line up a move, get past somebody. Because they don't call this track the Monaco without walls for no reason. It's
Exactly.
tight, it's narrow, it's very finessey, it's
Yeah.
very, very hard to make overtakes happen
Hmm.
unless somebody's making a mistake. So yeah, I think they're going to be pushing all the way out to the white lines.
And that brings me to my other point. I mean, going so close behind the other driver, trying to force him into a mistake. That's gonna punish your tires a lot. So I don't know due to tire temperatures this game, but are we gonna see more overtakes, or do you think drivers are gonna go for the classic undercut? Sorry,
I think it's going to be a lot of undercuts. Like we
undercuts to
saw in the
overcuts.
actual race today,
Hmm.
it's not necessarily that the degradation is high, but it's the amount of extra pace you find in those first couple laps on the tires
Okay.
that's going to make picking that pit window slightly early
Hmm.
could net you a few positions.
All right, I agree. I agree because, like you say, it all depends on how good you are at warming that tire during your out lap, during your first, during the first part of your out lap. I'd say. But do you think D1 drivers are gonna go, for example, if we see one of the Red Bull, one of the Mercedes drivers have a bad quality? Could we see one of them potentially try to go for the soft as a starting tire? Because we've seen,
I think
it's
I think the softs as a starting tire might be a favored strategy this week.
okay, interesting.
With,
Okay.
with it being so tight, that track
Mhm.
position is going to be very important.
Mhm.
And the start of the race is really the only chance you're going to have to go two wide, three wide, make up a large amount of gap in
Mhm.
a small amount of time. So I think we may see some teams opt for a soft start, stretch it out as far as they can, and then try and pull mediums the rest of the race.
Yeah.
I doubt we'll see anybody try and do the hards. If you do, I thought Charles gave you enough of an example.
Exactly. I was gonna
It
say, let's
does
reference
not
the
work here.
the real
They don't
race.
have like the track is not high deg, it's not a lot of load in the tires, but the hards just don't have enough.
Exactly. I mean,
Doesn't work.
it's hard. It's really hard to get them up to temperature. I mean, they understeer a lot. You go off track and you lose all momentum. So they could. I mean, if you're precise enough, patient enough, it could work. But like you say, I think we're gonna go. Like a lot of drivers are gonna go for the medium soft medium. And in terms of safety car, we saw I think a VSC, or I think it was clean, the D4 and D3. But D2 we saw two safety cars. Well, due to the rain and changing conditions, but due to drivers pushing in D1, how many safety cars do you think we're gonna see? Zero, one, or more than one?
I'll put my money on one.
On one.
It's a
Okay.
track that because it's very Monaco without walls, you're
Mhm.
pushing as hard as you can, and the curbs at the edge of the track here are very steep.
Hmm.
So trying to get that little bit of track width, it does like to unsettle the car a lot. So we may see a lot of spins, a lot of wall hits with these
Okay.
guys trying to push as fast as they possibly can. So yeah,
Hmm.
I think maybe one. I don't think we'll see two.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you a bit, talk about a bit the comparison because I know you play a lot of, of GT3, very good at it as well. So I wanted to ask you with GT3 cars, there's not much the issue of bottoming out, but when you try to take these aggressive Hungary curves as much as you can, when you're getting greedy to try to gain lap time, how hard is it to bottom out on an F1 car, compared to a GT3, how hard is it to lose it when going fast through a
So
curve?
contrary to popular belief, the GT3s are actually super easy to bottom out.
Really?
I mean, mainly
Oh,
because a
okay.
lot of cars do
I thought.
favor a low front ride height.
Okay,
But
yeah, makes sense. I didn't know
uh, I
they. Interesting.
I'd
Okay.
say it's about as easy in both. It's a very fine line between you're not using enough and you're having to compromise your speed through a corner,
Mm-hmm.
and you're taking too much and are now oversteering.
Okay, yeah,
It's,
like
for example, the chicane of turn six, I believe it is,
six and
into
seven, yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
S's, the more finesse portion of the track. That
Mm-hmm.
first left-hander into it, there's a little bit of concrete at the top of the apex
Mm-hmm.
there,
Yeah,
and a
just a
lot of
fine line.
drivers like to favor to use it.
Yes,
But if
sir.
you're a little bit too low on the ride height or a little high downforce, hitting that curb too much will really unsettle the car and ruin the entire sector.
Yeah.
So it's just as much of a threat in an F1 car, if not more.
Uh, and what would you do? I mean, do you raise ride height and then significantly compromise top end speed, or do you just thread the needle and just hope for the best?
Change my approach to the corner.
Yeah. Okay.
Personally, my approach to that corner is to go for a slightly later apex and not use the curb.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like to hop the curb and go a little earlier, and
Exactly.
they feel that it helps them rotate the car around. But
But
again, everybody's different. It's different to the setup too, because where you are in the track out of that left changes the
mm-hmm.
way you react to the right hander. It's
Exactly.
going to be a mix, a very mixed bag.
Mm-hmm. So we know it's a high downforce track, but um, in your opinion, would you opt to compromise a bit of cornering speed to try to get the move done on DRS trains? Knowing that you have that extra 10 and 20 kph.
I don't think there's any compromise necessary. I think
Okay.
you have to put all the focus into the cornering speed on this track because they just keep
Mm-hmm.
coming at you, keep coming at you. The exits of corners and the mid speeds are almost more important than the top speed you hit on the straightaway.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get that good
Yes.
corner speed, you're not hitting the top speed anyways.
Mm-hmm. Because what I think with DRS enabled, you barely hit eighth gear 310 perhaps
Something like
kph,
that.
like barely, So I mean, as you say, the important part here is cornering speed and what about tire degradation? Because we know with this new patch, some of the D2 and D3 drivers did not read the notes, and they were running close to max tire pressure. So it's hard when at lap 4 or 5 your rears are already hitting 107, 108, and the car starts dancing. So um, how low do you go? I mean, do you go for that minimum tire pressure, knowing that they're gonna get more wear, but you're gonna be faster through corners, or do you try to balance it out to have more tire temperature but less tire wear?
It's a tough game to play.
Hmm.
Just as hard as it is to describe and try and set it up as a scenario like you were doing there. It's
Okay.
just it depends on the setup, the driving style of the driver. Are you somebody who likes a more aggressive differential where you use mechanical grip to rotate the car? Maybe you're going to end up with a little bit more tire wear in the rear end, so you want to keep the tire pressure a little bit lower. You got a little bit more room to play with.
Okay.
Or the
Interesting.
inverse. Or maybe there's the smart guys of D1 like we're going to watch who are
Hmm.
going, you don't know how tires work, and that's why you're in D4,
Yeah.
the other way around. But there's it's a gamble, and I've seen people make it work from all sides.
Okay.
But I like to go for a lower tire pressure.
Alright. Yeah. Just play the safe bet. Just trying to keep those rears in check. I would too, though. To be honest,
Exactly.
trying to better be safe than sorry, as I would
Yep.
say. So speaking of that, I wanted to ask you a bit about predictions, because last race around, due to penalties and track limits and everything, we saw Ferrari coming in first, and which was unexpected. I mean, I thought Alpine or Aston Martin had the win, and you know, so Ferrari looking really strong across many divisions. So do you think they can keep the momentum going uh, heading into Hungary?
I think that's definitely the goal for them this week. Like you said, they got a lot of momentum coming into the D1 race. They have been performing very well across the divisions. I know Ian's definitely going to be hoping to get himself another win there back to back. If I
For
remember
sure.
correctly, he's defending champion of the Division One league.
Uh,
So, or was
Hudson
it
won,
someone else? Hudson won. My mistake.
but
Uh,
he did
uh,
win. Like he has
he
been
has
champion.
won before. He's a very fast
He's
driver,
looking to
and
to
it's
reclaim
it's
it.
kind
Yes,
of going
sir.
to be important to get as many points as you can early when you
Hmm.
get the opportunity. Don't let it falter, because people will catch up to you and the fights will stay tight. But my prediction this week is actually with the Astons. They're the only team to have two drivers anywhere near each other in the finish.
Yes, sir.
Everybody else was spread out all over the place. And I think they're going to look at that as an opportunity to run away with the constructors early. And we're going to see both of those guys push pretty hard to try and get a top 10, top 5 finish tonight.
I'd say for sure a minimum top five. I mean, they're like you say, they're hungry. They're looking for redemption. Many drivers looking for a better result than Bahrain. I think Bahrain was kind of like testing waters. Seeing how the situation is. How hard they can push. How getting to know a bit each other. How the chemistry is. And I think, yeah. I mean, Hungary. They're gonna be. It's gonna be tight racing as well. Cleaner racing as well. I hope. And it's gonna be tight. I think the field is gonna be spread out by, I'd say, maximum 1 second from P1 to P20.
It,
So
it's going to be it's going to be a tight split across the field. It's very much a track that someone being significantly faster than you can be a difference of a couple tenths.
yes,
And it's a couple
yes.
tenths that are extremely hard to find
Hmm.
because the corners just keep coming at you, keep coming at you. One small mistake eats into the next.
And it's over
So,
exactly.
yeah, I think it's going to be a super tight qualifying this week. Yeah, probably a second to split the
Hmm.
field.
What do you think about pole times? Are we gonna see 115s, low 115s, or just mid 115s, 116s, as always?
I think as long as it stays dry,
Ooh,
D1 will
right, right.
continue to overproduce
Hmm.
and we'll
Okay.
see low 115s. But um, who knows? We got a little bit of rain in D2, I believe,
We did,
and
yeah. Changing conditions. It was from
yeah,
wet to dries, but
and
makes
that's a
sense.
big change up in and of itself. Dry to wet, wet to dry, whatever it is, that completely changes. You got to pick a setup for one and hope
Exactly,
that it works in the
exactly.
other. So
That's the
it's the
issue.
hard part.
So, well, I mean, I think weather is gonna play a really important part on tonight's race. So yeah, I mean, I'm really eager to see what these drivers can do on this second race of the season. So yeah, I'm thinking Alpine and McLaren are gonna be also up there. I'm thinking Mercedes is gonna try to come back from last weekend's Grand Prix where they had some issues. But yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be possibly a five-way fight for the lead. So really eager to see what these drivers can do. And yeah, anything more you would like to add before we head on?
Not really. Just looking forward to see somebody else race.
Yes, yes, sir. Me
I
too.
didn't get to race this week from technical issues, but
Oh man.
everybody's been putting on a great show, so D1 should only be another addition to that wonderful content.
Yep, I
That's the word I
agree.
was looking for.
I completely agree. So yeah, ladies and gents, grab something to drink, grab something to eat, and because Division One quality and race will be with you in around 5 minutes. So don't go anywhere.
Yeah, it may not be the most exciting one. Hungaroring's got this. You said Monaco without walls. It's got the impression that there's not a lot of passing, but don't tell the guys in real life like because we had a banger race in Hungary today with the big guys in F1. But also here, I think throughout the divisions, we did see a number of movement. Some of the things I want to watch for here is Ian Krieger coming off his race one victory. Yes, you did hear me right. After penalties, after tickets settled, your race winner on track, Jeffrey Lawler, actually down to P6. So Ian Krieger is currently your reigning race winner. I like for him to try to continue here in Hungary, but by that same token, I'm looking for Jeffrey to kind of bounce back. He raced better than P6. I think that they're going to be racing just as hard. A couple overtake spots, like you mentioned, turn one, turn two. And if you got the cojones, I think turn four as well could serve for some interesting action. Yeah, I was out with Tom Hadcap for a little bit while. He looked like he was on his first real heater. He said a 122 that wasn't really a competitive time, and he just had a spin. So, two spins actually. I'm sorry for Tom. So I don't know if he's got some hot tires. Speaking of that, Revis, I think tire temperature is going to be huge. Big topic of conversation in the paddock this week was patch 106. Completely redid the handling model, most with strong emphasis on the tires and the tire temperature. So you saw drivers going from essentially time trial setups to max tire pressures all the way down to minimum to try to balance that tire wear. So we'll see if a lot of drivers got the memo. I'm sure in D1 everybody did, but managing tire wear and setting those pressures correctly are going to be a little bit more important today than they were last week.
Dude, but yeah, tire temperature is going to be super important for these guys. We saw a couple drivers have issue after issue. One of the main ones was Wild Fury was in and on for a podium here in Division 3 and spun once out of turn 1 and spun 4 more times consequently, waiting for those tires to cool down. Now, there was a patch, you mentioned 1.06, and when that dropped, one of the things they did is they took out of the game the ability to pause and immediately cool your tires. And some drivers were relying on that, even though it is kind of against the rules. But they were definitely taking full advantage of that where they could.
Ian Krieger so far with provisional pole. He's got a 115.5, just setting a blistering pace out there. He's almost a full 4 tenths ahead of the Mercedes of Ariel Carvalho, and almost 5 tenths ahead of his teammate Peter Giordano, who's currently in P3. So Ian setting himself apart from the field pretty early on in this quali session.
There's a really good lap from him so far, and we're going to see these times tumble. There's not a ton of time left. We're about almost to the halfway point here, so we're going to see drivers set about 4 or 5 more laps max here, and I'm sorry, maybe two more laps max, and they're going to go back in. They're going to reformulate, think about what they need to do. Think, do I need to adjust some tire pressure here? Do I need to take some wing out of the front, and maybe I can get a little more grip that way? to the rears by changing that load of the aero balance. By taking some of that wing out, you kind of shift the aero load back to the rear of the tire and get that rear to bite and hook up a little bit better. So big choices and big changes here. They've had all week to come up with a setup, come up with some sort of secret sauce to make things happen. But now it's time to lick the stamp and send it.
I'm on board with Hudson Poole right now, currently in P6. Looks like he had a little bit of a toe set up from his partner, Duncan McCamick, as he heads in to turn 4 to try to get some of it. So he just started Sector 2. Wasn't sure if his delta going in there to see if he improves as he approaches turns 6 and 7. The chicane, really one of the few hard braking zones here, the Hungarian. You got a lot of lift, a lot of engine braking, some high-speed corners. It's a really technical track. You're always doing something. He's coming up to the end of Sector 2. We'll see what sort of delta Hudson has on what looks like to be his second heater, and he's 3/10 up. 3/10 up. He just hit a purple Sector 2, if that graphic is right, as he comes into turn 13 and 14. The exit speed coming in to the pit straight is incredibly crucial here. Not many passing zones like you alluded to before, Revis. We'll see what Hudson says coming around turn 14. Almost loses it on the exit, and he's 3/10 up with a 1:15.7. Good for P3, but you can't help but wonder if he had a little bit more in there had he not gotten a little loose coming out of turn 14.
So his teammate Duncan McCamick just a little bit behind, too far behind actually to gain any advantage from the toe. So that was a one-way toe to try to set Hudson up to fight these guys for pole. Now, the thing you've got to realize if you're Ian Krieger, Luke Locklear, Thermo, incredible start last week. Got out to the lead of the race and led most of the race. He can do that again. So even if you're on pole, if Luke Locklear is within 2 or 3 spots of you, you are not safe. You are still in the danger zone where you can absolutely lose that at the beginning. Lose it into turn 1. It happens week after week. We see Thermo do it time after time. I don't know what they're putting in the water down there in Barbados, but that dude gets some great starts.
Yeah, he's probably the best I've ever seen. I probably need to take some lessons from him. I lost 6 spots off the start in D4. I'm a little bit embarrassed to say. So, Thermo, when you come back and watch this, let's schedule a time, man. Hook me up. Get me better.
We got a couple of reserves, names we haven't seen before. Cal Labib in the AlphaTauri. Portmanteau of a couple of cool names. We'll let you in the chat try to figure out who that is exactly. Should be Duncan McCamick coming around to finish a flyer. He's up 4/10 on his time, currently in P11. Getting into the P10 isn't so important for tire strategy anymore, but it is for the race start strategy. What can Duncan do? He goes P5. So right now it's P3, P5 for the Red Bulls, the Mercedes in P6, and P9, the Ferraris in P1 and P4. So we're seeing a lot of mirror right now to what we're seeing in the real race, and then an Alpine out of nowhere, Razor Senna out of nowhere. So we mentioned earlier in the pre-race show, and then I mentioned it just momentarily, but Razor Senna is great at street tracks, and this track has the nickname of Monaco without walls. So you would have to assume, as technical, twisty, and tight as some of these corners are, this is a track where he can do something really impressive. And speaking of impressive, there's Jeffrey Lawler. Dago goes at number 2, 1:15.586, 400ths off Ian Krieger currently. Pushes Luke Locklear down by 1.3 tenths.
Another really quick lap by Dago. And these have been, top 4 drivers that you see now on the grid. That's what we saw pretty much from all of Bahrain, right? Peter had good pace, but he got caught up in a couple incidents, and Duncan also got caught up in a couple incidents. He had actually a nice recovery at a lot, but then got caught up in another one at the end that kind of ruined his race. But these top 4 drivers have kind of risen to the top, and I think that throughout the season, it's going to be hard to shake up this group of drivers. It's almost like a different tier of Division 1. They're very fast, they're very consistent, they're on a different level.
Yeah, and speaking of different levels, we love to have folks from all over the world join us. We have lifted the restriction to have Division 1 only be for North American drivers, and we see in P11 Fanner Korlikson, an Icelandic driver. Now, I know I got the first name right. I probably butchered the second name, and if Flossie's in the chat, he's going to tell me, and he's going to be laughing at me for getting it wrong. We do have over in the chat, we do have a poll up. The question is, will we have another dramatic conclusion this week? By a wide margin, the answer is, of course. We gave you the options of course, probably not, and I'm just here for recipes. And for the 12% of you that are here for recipes, Buffalo Trace is going to give us his recipe for a race day drink. Buffalo, take it away.
Yeah, race day drink. Kind kind of tough your first time, what I do is I take bourbon of choice, usually like a Maker's Mark, a Buffalo Trace, something like that, and I pour it into a glass. And there you go. You have Buffalo's broadcast bourbon. Good for race days, drive days, whatever you want to do. There's your recipe.
And that is your recipe time, brought to you by Buffalo Trace and Revis's Cookbook, coming soon to a store near you that doesn't exist. Look out for it, folks. All right, Eric Carvalho about to start another flyer. 3 minutes left in quali, running out of time to do anything more than a P7, P10 for Mercedes. What can this driver do? Well, we will check back in just a minute. We're going to check in with Mike Rehill, the leaky valve. No, sorry, Jason Peltzer versus the Gator into the pits. So that was a waste of time. Mike Rehill, his teammate in P14. Looks like Razor Senna may be coming in to finish a lap. No, also.
Thermo is on a heater right now, I think, Revis.
Okay, we'll check in with him. We got Eric Perez going to come across the line first. So we'll jump from Eric back. No, Eric is in. Tom Hatcap stays out. Let's see if he can improve on his time at all. Looks like a decent-ish time. Looks like it's going to be about a 116 to 118. What can he do here? It goes 5 seconds faster. P18, so nothing really doing there. Maxime. And yeah, Thermo into the pits, P3. Maxime still in P10 with a 116 flat, pushing back to back, and has a little bit of an AlphaTauri in his way as he comes around the corner. He loses the rear end, and that is less than ideal. The leaky valve, Mike Rehill, is out of the session, retired into the pits, so he will do no better than P14 at the time. What can Maxime's teammate Eric Carvalho do here? He is slightly up on his time, about a tenth, as he comes around the final turn for what is going to be possibly the final time, as he has almost no ERS remaining. Going to be very difficult to push, and he does improve slightly, less than a tenth, and he goes P6.
I'm on board with Maxime right now, who's got a view of a Haas in front of him. I saw that bottom sparking. The ride height is incredibly important here at this track. Some of these curbs are a little bit high up, especially I'm on with Maxime now. That curve to the right of the chicane, some guys try to run it, but it can become a real bumpy ride real quick if you don't have that ride height set up a little bit. But we're seeing some spins here at the end of the qualifying session, and some guys trying to push too hard maybe.
It appears that way. So Maxime seems to be backing out, recharging the battery, wants to create a little bit of a gap so he doesn't overtake. And at the same time, there's Hudson Poole not creating a gap. And will that cause an issue potentially for the Red Bull driver as he tries to improve out of P4? He's got to create at least a 3 to 5 second gap here, or he's going to have to worry about running into traffic. He's got to worry about running into that dirty air off the back of Maxime. So he pulls over to let the Haas through. The Haas almost runs into the back of somebody starting a lap. Was that Anand Trivedi? Yes, it was. He did make it through, but there was definitely a AlphaTauri in his way of, I believe, a Cal Labib. And it was, yeah, Cal Labib might be hearing something later on from the stewards, potentially blocking on that lap. Seems to be pushing 20 seconds. He cannot make it around, but he is pushing anyway. And so let's check in with Maxime. Still going. Eric Carvalho, where are you at? Into the pits. He is done. At the Ferrari of Ian, no, of Peter. Comes across the line and still P5. Cannot improve. Did come across just in time to start another flyer. Let's check in with Jordan Angus. The Sleek Warlock. No, that was his teammate. They got to get numbers in this game, folks. I can't just keep guessing and looking like a fool all the time. Anand Trivedi will be our next one to try to cross the line. He is not invalidated yet. Does have a AlphaTauri behind him. So what can he do on this last gasp effort? He looks to be a little bit too slow to make anything happen. He's going to stay out. This is going to be about a 117.5 if my eyes do not deceive me. 16.6, so still in P18 and no improvement there. Cal Labib next across the line and no improvement there at P14. Maxime is done. No improvement. Dago goes P1 with a 115.4. Good lap from him. Hudson Poole goes P2 with a 115.5. And God, this game is awful. This is a waste of time trying to track everybody down. Peter Giordano coming through the final sector. Currently in P5, up a tenth. Has not invalidated. Can he do better? Can he jump his teammate? He's going to need more than a tenth here. He needs a good exit. Pretty decent exit there. Hard on the loud pedal and moves up to P4. So it is a second row lock for Ferrari. So right now, unless the Jason Peltzer can do something amazing here, he cannot. So that is it. That's going to be it for qualifying. So Dago on pole. Hudson Poole, Ian Krieger, Peter Giordano, Luke Locklear, only in 5th. So the 4 ahead of him need to be very aware of that, and they've got to work together or Thermo will absolutely send it on the start because he has no fear. His teammate, Major Castleman, in P6, so a pair of Alpines, a pair of Ferraris in the top 6. Duncan McCamick, Hudson Poole's teammate, in P8. Graz in P9. Jeffrey Lawler, Dago's teammate. Razor Senna in the top 10. And Eric Carvalho and Maxime, P7 and P11 for the Mercs. Not a great start, but Jack Pemberton, look at him, in P12 for Alfa Romeo. His teammate, Jordan Angus, in P17. A couple of new guys here, Fanner and Cal in 13 and 14. The McLarens qualifying together, holding hands, skipping through the field, little traipse through the tulips, and not ideal there, starting in 15th and 16th, but a lot of time to be made up. Both of them really quality drivers. Folks, make sure you like and subscribe. We're going to be here all night, and hopefully the content's way more exciting than the scuffed qualifying where I cannot jump between cameras because, you know, why would you be able to? But that is our starting grid right there, and it is going to be time to get fast in just a minute. So now's your chance, folks. Go hit the head, get you something cold to drink and a bag of tater chips, and we will be right back for 35 laps of hot and heavy green flag racing in Zoom Racing League.
Yeah, I think these guys are so good at managing fuel that they'll be able to figure out either way, right? I think it was last week in the Division 2 race, we were talking about Lewis Piper kind of putting the pack behind him in a big gap there right before we start, and he was lifting and coasting the entire time. So I think Dayo can certainly manage his fuel. I'm watching out for Thermo on the start, not because of traditional reasons, but because he's starting on the hard tire. We'll see how that works out for him. I was on board with Major Castleman and got to watch all of that action with Thorough Lockout. He loses it a little bit in turn 1, so he's going to lose a bunch of positions. He's tumbling down the order, finds himself in P15 in between McLarens. As we see an Alpha Tauri go around, that was Cal Labib. Yeah, be another guy who's quick, clean, and consistent. Sounds like we might be. We're seeing a lot of guys. Ian Krieger is just retired as well. Maxime. So it looks like we're going to remake the lobby.
You have How does my mic keep getting muted? I don't understand this. My mic got muted again, so that amazing start from Thermo
Oh,
didn't
it
even
was
get
so
called.
good, dude. That was a great call. We had a lot of action going into turn 1.
Bro, this what's wrong with OBS? What's wrong with this game? I'd like to announce my retirement if everybody's okay with that. Well, I'll be retiring tonight.
Oof.
So yeah, that was my last broadcast. You guys didn't get to hear it, so Buffalo, take it away, and I'm gonna go put my feet up on a beach somewhere.
Got it. Give me one more bourbon, and I'm ready to go for the whole thing.
All right, so folks, stand by. Give us a couple of minutes here. We'll do Q&A with Toto Rivas, and we'll turn our cameras back on. That way you can see Buffalo's lovely face and my ugly mug. And so yeah, we're just going to be here in the lobby Q&A. Good thing we have this set up. So yeah, everybody left. Jeffrey Lawler walking down the podium in the lobby. Obviously, that's not what happened. He's a little prancing pony on my screen. But yeah, red flag says... See, now I go over to pre-race 2 and it says that you're muted. Dude, I don't understand what's going on with OBS, honestly. It's trash. Okay, so Q&A in the chat. Let's see if we have any questions yet. What a lap. 13 seconds, absolutely blasting it. He DSQ got to be a lobby reset. Good FS Thermo. Guess who's back, Speedy? What happened to Major? Your worst night. Oh, Cameron's back in the chat. Cal's buddy. Speedy Cam, rivalry runs deep. Okay. Wait, the Haas got DSQ before the race started. Danny Vogler says, Campbell, we run deep for Cal. Yeah, Cal's got some stands in the chat. And that's what we love to see it. We love to see you guys here cheering for the team. Let's see, red flag. If you weren't Mercedes TP, which team would you like to TP? That's a good question. Now, if by TP you mean toilet paper, then it would be Red Bull. But if I had to lead another team, I think it would be actually kind of fun to lead one of the teams that's further back in the standings, that a bottom tier team, if you will, which we know they're not. These are all good drivers. But I like Buffalo's job at, and I mean, this is not me shooting to take your job and give mine up or swap seats or whatever, but I think the Alfa Romeo job would be kind of cool because you have some projects you can work on. You have some guys that have a lot of talent and you can try to help develop them. I think Williams and Haas would be interesting. Alpine, to me, I think is the most interesting for this season because of some of the changes that have happened and the depth of the drivers there. And some of those drivers are going to completely outperform the field in such a way that we didn't expect. So I think Alpine would be very interesting. What about you, Buffalo? If you were not such a Alfa Romeo stan, is there another team that you would like to run? And you're welcome to say Mercedes. No?
Yeah, I'm losing you a little bit there, but if I was to be TP of another team, it'd actually probably be McLaren. So, before joining the league, well, I still am a McLaren fan, so I support Lando and Danny Rick on the big circuit. So I think that'd be a cool team to go for. But yeah, I mean, OG in the chat saying the AlphaTauri. No, man, I would either want to work with OG or drive against him, but I'm not going to take his job. Yeah, so.
I'll tell you in a minute. Sorry, my wife just got home from the track. She's looking lovely and sweaty at the same time. Let's see what else do we have in the chat. Looking out for the race at Buffalo. Joel Garon says he'd like to run Merc. Okay, Joel, I'll send you a DM. We'll see what we can do there. The AlphaTauri, Buffalo, and Lying. Oh, Ethan Patel, Technic Speedy. When will I be drafted for Mercedes? The answer to that, Ethan, is as soon as Freddie Razzle wins a spelling bee. So I think the odds are not great Okay, there you go. When Joel runs it. So, yeah, if I'm turning the reins over to Joel next season, then it's gonna be all you. So is Buffalo, is my mic doing the same thing you said before, where it's when I'm quiet it cuts out?
Yeah, get a little bit of in and out. Yeah, a little bit of inconsistencies
Okay,
in the sound.
we can play with that just a little bit. We got time here. Nothing else is working. Why should this? All right, we're gonna take that down. And the only thing I'm concerned about is you can hear my fan on.
I can hear the fan a little bit, but I think the background noise is probably better. I can hear your fan, yeah.
I know you guys are here because it shows how many of you are watching right now. Leaky Valve, Mike Rehill says, head of FIA, give me Massey's job. Yeah, dude, if you want to take over this league, that's fine. I'll because I got some inside information, and Duncan McCamick went so far as to say that if I ever left, he would consider leaving and shutting down the league. And I don't know where that praise comes from, but I certainly appreciate it. It looks like the lobby is back up now, so I'm going to join off of Peter Giordano. And it'll take a few minutes to reset the grid. So we got some time here to talk. Oh, they're ready to go. Let me make sure I hit this spectate button. And momentarily we had 21 people in here. Looks like we're all good. Everyone connected. Eric Carvalho, the only one with some red on the ping. Same with Fauner, but that's Iceland gonna do that. Y'all looking sharp. Thank you. I think the mic not picking up when you turn away is the issue. Yeah, that's probably a big part of it. Is when I do this number over here, because I get distracted easily. ADHD array. All right, so we are forming the grid back up. About 25 seconds until it is back up. So you got 25 seconds to ask any more questions that you have for me, for Buffalo Trace, or for anyone else in the chat. And I will do this. If you ask a question of someone in the chat, I will delete their response and I will answer in their stead. Can we get an OFOD from Riva? I don't know what an OnlyFans of the day. Is that what an OFOD is? I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. Danny Vogler, do I think Cal takes it? I think Cal has a good chance at a top 10. I think Cal is just on the tail end of the pace of some of these guys in Division 1. Outfit of the day. Is it what? Why is Mercedes so bad? Because you don't have taste. Valhalla TV says Cal is the man. Yeah, Cal has had a really good weekend. Actually drove in a Mercedes, and there's a little bit of inside information. He and Lewis Piper were in the call in Mercedes and were just nonstop during the Division 2 race, telling me how much more they wish they could be in Mercedes, how Red Bull's toxic. Duncan is an absolute slave driver and is just a terrible person to work with. So, yeah, if there was a way for me to have 4 Mercedes teams, I'd adopt all my favorites. But right now I've got Sid and Johannes and a bunch of also rans. I say that my D3 guys are killing it. They're killing it right now. We've got a great reserve in Seb, killed it in D4, got a podium. Shutter potentially could have been on for a podium, but I think somebody took him out early on. So, yeah, I think I'm happy with the draft. All right, here we go. We are back live. We are headed back into the game. Rochelle Phillips says, what is wrong with Ferrari? This year started good and turned into a shite. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Not sure if you're talking about Division 1 Ferrari or real world Ferrari, but either way, yeah, just absolutely. Luke Locklear already disqualified from session. This is off to a good start. So here's where I have the question for you, Buffalo. I don't know. And for folks in the chat, last game, if you got disqualified from session and you were pushed back onto the grid and you had to sit there, your tires would drop to damn near frigid temperatures. Is that still the case?
I do not think so. I have been disqualified from the formation last before. I did not notice ice cold tires. Now that was pre-patch, so it's possible that that actually did go into effect, but I don't have confirmation that you start on ice colds.
All right, well, either way, we are going to find out in just a matter of time. What's really cool is I learned from Leaky Valve. He gave me all these tips and tricks. So, like, if you hit the L key, the lap right there at the top right of the screen goes in and out. Hit T for telemetry, and it goes in and out. Right now, it's covered up by the predicted pit stop strategy. M, I think, was for map. D is for details, so we can scroll through and see the tires. Be interesting to see if anyone made a different choice on tires. Luke Locklear on the hards, Eric Carvalho on the hards, and Trivedi on the hards. I believe that's what we had before, because we do have the admin discretion of implementing a penalty for people who change tires when we have to restart the lobby. Echo hearing Buffalo try. See, I've already turned this off like 3 or 4 times, and I dude, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
There's an echo is coming from my voice.
No. It's on my end. I have Discord
Okay.
and headphones going. Ian Krieger disqualified from session for contact. It looks like. So I've got that fixed. What track is this? This is the Hungaro Ring. Rochelle. Oh, sorry. Your name is Jake. Jake. This is the Hungaro Ring in Budapest, Hungary. So we're gonna do this once again, but this time we're going to be live, and we're going to. I can't choose Luke Locklear for the start, so we will be on with Major Castleman, and this is another scuffed lobby. Okay, here we go. All right, folks, this time is for real. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights out, and we are underway here in Hungaro Ring. This time around, Luke Locklear doesn't get the start he got before. He is going to be battling his teammate down here into turn 1 for the lead of the race. And what's going to happen here, side by side, Hudson Poole, Jeffrey Lawler. Hudson Poole takes the spot, a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a push out wide for Jeffrey Lawler. A little bit further back, Duncan McCamick fighting his way through. Maxime with a better start this time around, up into P6. Jack Pemberton already up into P7. Razor Senna P8. Big losers there. Luke Locklear all the way down into P16. One of the best starters we have. We got a spinning Red Bull of Duncan McCamick. He's around. The boss is out and falling down the order quickly.
I wonder if we have a little bit of dissing too. I see Luke Locklear still in P3. I see Major Castleman at a small incident. On my screen, he's P7, so I'm not sure what's what, but I do see my boy Jack Pemberton potentially in P5. I hope that's real.
So on my screen, I've got Jeffrey Lawler from Hudson Poole, Ian Krieger, Jack Pemberton, Maxime, Major Castleman, Razor Senna, Eric Carvalho, Aaron Altmaier, Graz. We got a yellow for Cal Labib all the way down in P20. Iceland strikes again, says Campbell, Lowry, Hart. So Fanner in P19 has dropped 6 spots. Luke Locklear, though, the big loser in all this, on my screen anyway, has dropped 12 spots down to P17. Hopefully this all gets sorted very quickly. I would like to know from everyone else if there is a desync issue, if someone else is in there engineering and can tell us in the chat what exactly is going on. Jeffrey Lawler, first time around, and now I show Luke Locklear, who I'm riding on board with in P1, but 8 cars in front of him.
Yeah, I'm doing a little lobby reset. I'm going to try to join in and out again to see if maybe we can get someone from the Alpine side to clarify where him and Major Castleman are at. Heading back in now. We'll see if it's the same.
Okay, I'm seeing a thing from Big Mama Frank that says we press on. We're going to keep on going here. So we're going to take my stream as the official one unless we see something different. So right now it's Jeffrey Lawler from Hudson Poole, from Ian Krieger, Jack Pemberton up 8 spots into P4, Major Castleman into P5, Maxime in P6, Eric Carvalho in P8. And if you're sitting in my seat, you're putting on my team principal hat. It's a much better result here at the beginning for the Mercedes running P6, P8. Are you seeing the same thing on your timing screen?
I'm seeing a P7 and a P9, and I wonder if that's because I still see Luke Locklear stuck in P3, which may be putting that back. But hey, I got to agree with you, man. My boy Jack Pemberton currently in P5 for Alfa Romeo, or perhaps it's 4 on your screen. Looks good on my end. Did Peter Giordano maybe have an incident? I saw him tumble down the order to P19.
All right, so I'm hearing Luke in P3 from multiple people, but I'm still showing him now in P1 again. So DRS enabled this lap around. Toto Rivas, Luke is indeed P3. Well, I'll take your word for it, folks, but all I can do is call what I see here. I can't tell you anything that I can't see. So I guess what we can try to do is I will try to leave the session momentarily and rejoin, and Buffalo Trace will keep you updated on what is happening until I return.
A little bit of audio only here. I'm on with Ian Krieger. It's about 3/10 behind Luke Locklear going into turn 4. Luke goes a little bit wide now. He's on that hard tire, and Ian just hit a purple sector 1. So this is a battle we're probably going to be watching for the next few laps to go into the hard braking zone of turn 6 and 7 for the chicane. So Thermo rides that curb after the chicane, and it's bumpy. And I don't know if he has the ride height. I know I set a little bit of a higher ride height for that instance, as we see Dago with the first penalty of the session. But that one, I found that it unsettled the car. Now, Luke Locklear is a lot better of a driver than I am, and perhaps he's better at managing that on the controller. But I wonder what these guys' ride height is sometimes coming over these curbs. Some other fights going down on the chain. I'm on with Maxime, who is about 5/10 behind the second Alpine driver of Major Castleman. Peter just got his first penalty for 3 seconds. So, we didn't see a lot of track limits in Division 4. But there are some tricky areas specifically around turn 4, really high-speed left-hander that can be tricky to keep it tight and not go wide.
All right, so it looks like I am back up and running, and looks correct now. So I have Jeffrey Lawler from Hudson Pool, from Luke Locklear, Ian Krager, Jack Pemberton, Major Castleman in P6, Maxime and his teammate in P7, P9, Razor Senna P8, and Graz in P10. And once again, I've lost audio. Thanks, EA. Thanks, Codemasters.
One thing we got going for us, Revis, rather, while you get the audio synced up, is I believe your game lobby is correct. So you guys are seeing the same lineup that I'm seeing on, and I appreciate you guys backing us up there in chat, making sure we're good. I'm on with Duncan McCamick, who finds himself in P14 right now, kind of towards the tail end of a little mid-pack DRS train right there, but it's kind of hard for long DRS trains to keep themselves intact in the Hungary, and he's following closely behind Leaky Valve, who went a little bit wide coming into turn 12. So again, the exits coming out of these two little hairpin turns going into the pit straight are crucial, because it's really your only shot at a good overtake either in turn 1 or in turn 2. There's a yellow in sector 2 around. Sorry, is that Tom Hatcap?
That is Tom Hatcap, artist formerly known as HTCP. Had a bit of a moment, was stuck on the side of the road. Luckily, it didn't beach, and he's got it back going again, but he is well behind the pack, and not off to a great start this season is Tom Hatcap in Williams, but we know he's a capable driver. We know he's a competent driver. Just having a little bit of rough time here. Eric Carvalho losing spots rapidly. Where are we at here? Was that a little bit of a spin, or maybe those hard tires just not coming into their own quite yet? But Eric Carvalho dropping from P7 all the way down to P14. From P9 all the way down to P14. Maxime in P7. Only penalty so far for Jeffrey Lawler, 3 seconds for track limits. And I'm honestly surprised in Division 1 that we don't see more track limit penalties, because the way these guys push, man, you're riding the ragged edge of grip and the ragged edge of what the tires can hold on to. So, I mean, you're pushing right to the very limits of what the game will let you get away with. Ian Krager absolutely flying right now, trying to hold tight to the back of Luke Locklear. So glad to finally see that back correct and not seeing Luke in P17. And man, I'm sorry for the call on the start of that race. It would have been nice to call it properly, but here we are. We can only work with the tools that are in front of us.
Yeah, I gave a little practice for my future radio career, Revis. I'm going to follow in your footsteps and join that. But Ian Krieger maybe making the pass happen on Luke Locklear. Goes to the outside. They're going to come into turn 1. He leaves him enough space. It's a really hard pass to make stick. There's a significant tire difference here, but Thermo's got the better exit. A little bit of contact, front right to left rear. And Thermo keeps the position, P3. So this is crucial for Ian's race to get past Thermo as fast as possible, right? They're on different strategies. Luke is kind of parking the bus with the hard tires. There's a McLaren around in turn 1. Is that Leaky?
That is a Leaky Valve. Mike Rehill looks like he had a little bit of an issue. Peter Giordano picks up a 3-second time penalty, but does get that spot from Mike Rehill in the McLaren. So McLaren's currently P9 and P17, and their team owner, Zach Brown Klein, Mr. Adam Klein, out of town right now. Hopefully watching on the stream and throwing his beer because he expects so much more out of his driver. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Lawler has built a 2-second gap. Hudson Pool has built a 3-second gap behind him. So it's Luke, Ian Krager, Major Castleman fighting for the podium as Jeffrey Lawler and Hudson Pool run away with it. Now, if you're Hudson Pool, you just got to keep an eye on that 3 seconds. As long as you can stay within that 3-second gap, or Jeffrey Lawler makes another mistake and you race clean, that is an easy race win for him. Ian Krager goes around. What happened back there? And he's spinning and spinning and spinning and just losing spots left, right, and center. We still, that Ferrari is still ghosted and spun around, and it looks like it might be missing a front wing. And so last week's race winner, Ian Krager, down into P15. Now, because he spun right before the pit straight, if there's any damage to that wing, he is going to spend the rest of his time struggling very slowly. It looks like it is back on. It was just a ghosting issue. So Ian Krager and Peter Giordano from a start of P3 and P4 down to P15 and P16 here in the early stages of this race.
Yeah, I guess the silver lining there is once he pits, he may get some clean air if he did indeed have damage. But Luke Locklear was really parking the bus like the best of them there, and it was really hindering Ian's race because he had the pace to compete with Dago and Hudson and couldn't make the pass stick on Luke. So I think these guys are going to have to get a bit adventurous here on the passing, right? Of course, turns 1 and 2 are the favorites, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see something creative in turn 4 and 5, maybe going into the chicane, something a little bit, something a little bit different. As I'm on, there was a short yellow there in front of Ian. It looks like there's a Mercedes around. Is that Maxime?
That is Maxime with no front wing. Luke Locklear ran a little bit wide there, lost the spot to Major Katzman. Maxime lost it a little bit, may have just hit that inside curb. Can't ride that inside curb there. You will definitely lose the rear end and take a trip over into the barrier that you don't want to take. That is one of the places that you can extend the track limits just a little bit, but if you're not careful, you wind up like Maxime with an early pit stop here in the 8th lap, finishing up the 9th lap, and it's going to be a wing change, and he can barely get that thing turned. Again, might be a little bit of desync, folks, but I assume Maxime will be early onto the hard tires and try to take them all the way to the end. I don't know, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so not a great return to form for Maxime, so it may be race 3 or 4 before we see what Maxime can really do for Mercedes.
Yes, they're both Maxime and Leaky Valve now kind of towards the back of the pack on fresh, hard tires. It looks like a little bit of desync there too, or that was a slow pit stop. I don't know. Can he serve his penalty on that stop? Does that mean he just served it right then and there? I don't think.
No, you cannot. You have to come back around and serve it on your next time around. So yeah, unfortunate for Maxime, all the way down in P20, and leaders are going to be gaining because you don't want to push too hard on the outlap, especially on the hard tires. Double check that that's actually what the case was, and it was hard tires for Maxime. Hard tires for Mike Rehill are only 2 to make a stop thus far, and yeah, unfortunate beginning of the race for both of them. Not unfortunate for the pair of Alpines though, up in P3 and P4. Major Castleman and Luke Locklear are doing a great job working together, and I don't think they meant to change positions. I think Luke just ran a little wide, but doing really good work here early on. And we have it looks like Tom Hatcap around again, potentially. No, that is going to be his teammate Eric Perez. Eric Perez having a bit of a moment, losing it in that same spot. So that very tricky turn there as I pull my track map up here, and because everything's been askance and askew. Turn 11, very tricky turn for some of these drivers. You want to take as much speed as you can there, but you take a little too much, and that is the end.
Or too much curve, and some of those more concrete looking curves that aren't red and white are extremely slippery, right? They're on the inside of turn 5 as well too, and it's like if you just tap it, boom, you go slip sliding away.
I think there's a song that has that as lyrics. So Graz, Aaron Altmaier up into P6 once again, 2 weeks back to back. Graz and Dako making me look a little bit silly on my picks. I had the choice early on, folks. These two wanted to be teammates. Eric Carvalho and Maxime wanted to be teammates, and right now it looks like advantage Aston Martin. In our pre-race show, it was either Drip or Mr. Sandunga told us to keep an eye on the Aston Martins. Well, right now they're keeping an eye on a win and another potential podium. If Aaron Altmaier can keep it clean and stay sucked up to the back of Jack Pemberton, he can start to hunt down Luke Locklear and Major Katzelman, and we may be in for another very exciting 2-lap shootout here at the end of the race, as it looks like Fanner has had an issue back in P15 and goes into the pits. Cannot quite tell yet if he's going to need a front wing change, but not ideal. Also gets speeding in the pit lane, does the Icelandic driver for the American Haas team. Take a look as they go all the way down to the very, very tail end of all the pit stalls. And it is going to be a front wing change. It's going to be hard tires for Fanner. P15, we'll see how far he drops on the release here. Takes like a solid good 10 seconds in the pits, and that, as a driver, you just feel every one of those tick, 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 and then you're watching the map, and right now he's worrying, am I going to lose this spot out to Eric Perez? Eric Perez closing up quickly, but no, Fanner's away. Only loses 1 spot on that blend, and stuck now and down in P16.
Yeah, you can see him kind of swerving right and left to try to warm up those tires, as he will concede the position to Eric Perez. He's on those cold hards. Be difficult to try to keep pace. Some big winners and losers so far. Ian and Peter, tough day for the Ferraris. Peter had a rough start. Ian, of course, had that incident, but big winners so far. Jack Pemberton up in P5, up 7 spots from his qualifying position of 12. And Jason Pelter quietly now in P7 after not really a great qualifying. He finds himself once again under the radar in condition for potentially a top 5 finish.
Speaking of top 5 finishes, Jack Pemberton losing out P5 to Aaron Altmaier. The DRS doing its job. Aaron Altmaier goes around the outside of turn 1 looking to run away, and right behind Jack Pemberton has got to be a little bit concerned because here comes the Gator ready to chomp. Luke Locklear still holding on strong on those hard tires. So we're getting really close to the opening of the pit window. I assume around lap 13 to 15, we're going to see these medium runners that have not yet changed come in. And it looks like Fanner and Eric Perez having a little bit of a battle. Eric Perez into the pits on lap 9 on the medium tires. Basically a lap and a half down already at the start. And here comes Jeffrey Lawler. And on lap 11, Eric Perez retires in the pits. He is done. So that is one Williams out, and his teammate Tom Hatcap also into the pit. We're going to see both Williams out, and we are. So it is a double retirement for Williams very, very early in the race. And that, not what you'd love to see as Jeffrey Lawler comes around and is going to lap both of them, or at least their AI, as he continues to lead and dominate in this race.
That's a tough day at the office for Garrett Elder and the Williams team. And, I don't know kind of what goes into the DNFs, right? You never know what's going on. But, obviously the scoring here at ZRL, right? If you finish the race, you get points. And I like to tell my drivers that keep it clean, keep it consistent, and just cross that finish line, because every one of those points is going to matter towards the end of the season, not only in constructors for the respective division, but then in the combined constructors. I was out with Jason Pelter, and Jack Pemberton just goes around in turn 3. So he's had a little bit of a spin, and he's going to start tumbling down the order.
Rough. We expected a really good result from Jack Pemberton, and he didn't do badly last week, but now he's just lost a spot out to Jordan Angus, Jason Pelter, Razor Senna, Eric Carvalho. So that's 4 spots lost. Now Jack is side by side with Ian Krieger. Ian had dropped all the way down to P15 at one point, and just an absolute tear through the field, trying to get back up into those high points paying positions. So we got a potential for some Ferrari on Ferrari violence with a Alfa Romeo Orland Sauber team powered by Ferrari sandwich with Ian Krieger as the meat in the middle.
Yeah. So actually, I'll give you a little bit of insight here. This is actually team orders. So what Jordan and Jack are doing is they're carrying Ian up the field, right? Obviously, my Alfa's had a little bit more pace, right? So we're just trying to get Ian back where he started. So Peter, you're welcome.
What an absolute amazing team principal. Great teamwork there. You love to see the Alfa Romeos keeping the older team, the bigger team, and so it's both of the Red Bulls in a little bit earlier than expected. Duncan McCammett came in first onto the hards, Hudson Poole onto the hards, so they're looking to do a massive undercut here. Just got to be careful getting those turned back on. As Jack Pemberton, is he around again? No, it's Jordan Angus.
Jordan.
So Jordan
he's going down to help Peter. So Jordan's going down to help Peter as Hudson comes out on the hards, and he's right behind Jack. So who's come in so far, Revis? It looks like Peter did come in for his pit, Hudson, and
Duncan McCammett.
They'll be the first 2 on the hard tire stint, and Duncan as well.
So early undercut from the Red Bulls. Is this a big brain strategy, or is this a gamble to try to make up for the points that were lost last week and the points that could be potentially lost here? Jeffrey Lawler, not really concerned about that. He can cover off that undercut because he is not going to have to deal with any traffic at all. There's nobody in his way. He can just continue to set laps, and as long as his delta looks good, as long as his lap times aren't falling off. The hard tire is a slower tire, not by a massive margin like it used to be, almost 7/10 going down to the hard tire, but there is still a drop off, and there's a longer turn on point to get them fired up and into the window. And if we end up with something like a safety car, as Tom Hatcap leaves the session, if we end up with a safety car, these guys that are early onto the hards might be at a slight disadvantage for these guys that are running the medium second, because you can get them fired up so much more quickly. Razor Senna, Jordan Angus, both into the pits. Interesting to see how long Major Castleman stays out. Luke Locklear is going to obviously stay out much longer than his teammate, but Alpine right now running 2-3. Hudson Poole in net P2 of the race after the stops, but Luke Locklear is going to be quicker at the end when he stops for the mediums.
Now that we're getting kind of towards the halfway point, and once we get to about lap maybe 17 or 18, right, Luke can kind of think about his strategy going in. But I really like this setup from him, because what it also allows you to do is if you want to try to go hard to soft, right, that gives you some flexibility based on safety car scenarios, right? So if you want to try to push to maybe lap 25, 26, and then go on the soft tires, you also have the ability, if a safety car comes out around 16, to just stick with a regular hard to medium strategy. But I think now that we're past the first stint without a safety car, I think Luke's strategy is looking pretty solid right about now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting as Graz goes into the pit. So he is going to undercut his teammate here, Jeffrey Lawler, and then we see the Ferrari of Ian who was about to be passed by Hudson Poole. Ian decides he would rather not be overtaken on the track, so he's going to jump in for the hard tires now. Hudson Poole goes fastest in part thanks to that slipstream he was getting. Or I'm sorry, backward. I had that backwards. But Hudson Poole, so making the hard tires work early right now. Fastest lap of the session to the Hudson Hornet, looking to do as much as he can here on the undercut to try to catch up to Jeffrey Lawler. Ian Krager, Jack Pemberton into the pits, going to blend out. P10, P11. No, they lose that spot to Razor Senna, who stopped a lap earlier. So there's the undercut right there, folks. Razor Senna stopped a little bit earlier and is able to undercut them because he's going to have the grip. And so let's see what the gap is right now. So right now the gap from Razor back to Ian is 4 seconds. Peter Giordano overtakes Jack Pemberton. So the Ferraris are now going to tow around the Alphas and say thank you very much for all the help you gave us earlier.
Yeah, Jack had another incident coming out of turn 1. It looks like he may have spun, but I think Ian's going to have a little bit of a tougher time passing Razor than he was passing a lot of the other midfield drivers on his previous stint. We talked about how Razor really strong at street tracks, Monaco, Baku. This is a little bit reminiscent of one we've said a couple times already throughout the broadcast, so it's going to be tough for him to try to get around him, as it looks like Peter Giordano just overcame Ian, and I don't know if maybe there was an incident or team orders or what, but Peter now finds himself in P11.
All right, Jeffrey Lawler and Jason Pelter both in the pits. Where does Jeffrey Lawler come out? Major Castleman, both Alpines stay out. Eric Carvalho up into P3. Jeffrey Lawler comes out behind Hudson Poole. So the undercut does its magic. Red Bull with the big brain strike. They called it perfectly, folks. They did it. And here it is. Hudson Poole leading from Jeffrey Lawler. And with 3 laps on the tire, he's got all the temp in the world. So Jeffrey Lawler's got to do a lot of work to get back up to pace, get those tires fired back up and into the zone. So Hudson Poole with the immediate advantage here on the stop. So Luke Locklear, Major Castleman, Hudson Poole, Eric Carvalho. We are going to have a fight and a battle all the way to the end, folks.
I bet this week Hudson ran a number of different scenarios on tire pressures to determine if this could work. And what I mean by that is, how much can he push on the hards in an undercut? How high can he keep those tire pressures to get them to warm up quick, get up to speed, but also not fall off on lap 33? He's done a great job now finding himself in P4.
All right, Major Castleman into the pits, so Luke Locklear will inherit the lead of the race. Right now, he does not have the stop covered off. He is 15 seconds back to Hudson Poole, roughly. Math is hard at this stage of the race. But so Luke right now does not have the overcut covered off. He's going to have to do a lot of pushing right here, and he's going to have to in part rely on Jeffrey Lawler catching Hudson Poole and the two of them fighting and slowing one another down. Where does Major Castleman come out? Looks like he's got a good enough gap to come out ahead of Anand Trivedi. So 3 seconds back from Jeffrey Lawler is Major Castleman. So the undercut does its job for both Hudson and for Jeffrey Lawler. So now Luke Locklear going long on the alternate strategy, hoping and praying for a safety car to slow the guys down behind him. And so this could be a battle of strategies. Is it going to be Red Bull? Is it going to be Alpine? Who has the better strategy towards the end of the race?
Ethan Patel petitioning to chat for Engineer of the Year. It's looking like a really good move on Hudson's part so far, because while he came out in a little bit of traffic, he's since cleared all that traffic. Now is in fully clean air behind Eric Carvalho, who is running the alternate strat with Thermo. So if I'm Hudson, I'm about in as good a position as I want to be.
And sucking up so tight to the back of Eric Carvalho, you're going to have the DRS. And you know Hudson has the skill, he has the bravery, he has the cojones to send it into turn 1. And is that what he's going to do? Here we go. It is Red Bull versus Mercedes. It is the reigning champ of multiple years, the reigning champs from last year. Which constructor has the cojones? Who has the strat? What's it going to be? It's Hudson Poole, and it's an easy move. Down in turn 1, Eric Carvalho puts up no fight, lives to fight another day, realizes he's on a different strat, and now he's going to be able to follow Hudson around, save a little bit of battery as he gets closer and closer to that long strat of coming in late to go onto the medium tires to try to have that speed and that pace there at the end of the race.
And what that does too is when Dago eventually catches up to Era, it's going to be harder to pass him if he can stay within DRS range, because Hudson will just drag him along. Now that gap is getting a little bit wider, so we may not see that many laps of it. In fact, by the time we get to the next DRS marker, the gap may already be 1 second, but if it does remain, it'll make the pass harder for Dago.
All right, so we decided around lap 13 to 15 is when these guys were going to come in, as Cal Labib takes the spot from Leaky Valve, P15 to P16. Those two will be trading. Cal on the fresher tires, but the hards with only 11 laps are still basically brand new tires as long as you've gotten them properly into the zone. A lot of these guys, we talked about it earlier, the tire deg, the heat, and there goes Luke Locklear into the pits. Let's check out what happens here. Does he have enough of a gap? Oh, no, he does not. Luke Locklear going to come out in about P3 of the race, potentially all the way down into P5 behind his teammate, Major Castleman. So let's watch them as they go by. All right, so here's Hudson Poole, passed. Eric Carvalho, passed, yet to pit. Luke Locklear stuck behind Jeffrey Lawler. Major Castleman, here we come on the blend. Will Major Castleman take the spot from his teammate? There we go. And yes, it is Alpine. Major Castleman has the advantage, but Luke Locklear has the tire advantage. Non-Trivedi in P6, 18 laps. He's got to be watching all this ahead and thinking, where am I actually going to blend out? Because it's looking right now that he might fall all the way down to P12 or P13. I talked about this early in the race. Anand likes to run the alternate stretch. He likes to gamble and go long, long, long and go for those overcuts. Right now, he's up into P6, but he's going to lose at least double that amount of spots if he's not careful here.
Yeah, he's coming into turn 4 right now. I was wondering, a little bit of under the radar guy currently in P6. Well, it's because only him and Era haven't pit yet. So we'll see if he comes around next time. Maybe he's going to follow Era, but no other really indicators to follow on strategy. So we'll see what happens.
Looks like he's losing a little bit of pace there on those 18-lap old hards because Graz and Gator, Aaron Altmaier and Jason Pelter are back into this fight. They're both going to have DRS, and unless Anand Trivedi jumps in, he's going to immediately lose both of these spots on the main straight. So you can lose them by pitting or you can lose them through overtakes. It's going to be your decision here. Lap 19, you can go 15 laps on the medium tires, as there's the yellow flag in P2, and that is Peter Giordano. Peter Giordano is around at the beginning of Sector 2, and here comes the two Alfa Romeos around to wave and flash their lights. Wait, there's no lights on an F1 car. I'm thinking GT3s. Can they do something here? Peter Giordano's got to take it really easy here. He's going to be missing a lot of grip. Once those tires get hot, it takes a long time to cool them off now. There is no more dipping a toe in the grass. There is no more pausing and resetting temporarily. And Anand Trivedi into the pits. He decided he would live to fight another day. Didn't want to be seen being overtaken on stream. But here comes the Alfa Romeos, ready to chomp at Peter Giordano, ready to show that we are not a minor team. We are not a junior team. We are a strong Ferrari team with strong Alfa Romeo and Sauber roots. And can they make something happen here? Will the two of them work together, work the DRS back and forth, and try to do some major damage here to the big Ferrari team? And, well, the damage is going to be done on its own. Ian Krager picks up a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, obviously that was due to the pressure currently going on by the drivers of P13 and P14. But I'm looking at that gap, and he's just starting to close it a little bit now. But Razor's doing a good job so far at keeping that gap as big as possible to Ian. He's making him work for it. And I spoke a little bit earlier about this would be a little bit harder to carve up the midfield than usual. Razor knows what he's doing around here.
All right, here comes Jeffrey Lawler, an easy overtake over Eric Carvalho, who decides to stay out for one more lap at least on the 20-lap old hards. Is he thinking hard soft? Now, the one thing that we did hear from the drivers, when a safety car does come out, having only one set of medium tires is less than ideal. Most of these drivers would like to have a second set of mediums. So let's say you start on the hards, you go to the mediums, and there's a safety car, but there's still 16 laps left. You got to gamble. Are you going to stay out and put extra laps on those mediums? Because a pair of softs will not make it. If you don't have the second set of mediums, now you're back on the hards that are slower. And so it is a real gamble staying out this late.
I wonder if hard soft was maybe his strategy in the first place. But, I hope that he's done the homework on his pace and knows how much faster he is on the fresh softs. And he's finding out how much slower he is in the hards. You know what I mean? Just kind of running those numbers and making sure the math checks out. If it doesn't, he's got to go in.
Well, if you're Luke Locklear, the math is definitely checked out, and you have the pace advantage. Luke Locklear, we missed it, takes the spot from Major Castle, and the tire advantage running the alternate strat works very nicely here for Luke Locklear. So it is the Barbadian driver up in the podium positions, dragging his teammate around, trying to keep that gap big. Back to Aaron Altmaier, and Maxime is out of the session. There's a Mercedes out in Sector 1, and that is a safety car, folks. That is going to be a safety car. So Eric Carvalho has already missed the pits, was not able to stop. So if that was a team play from Mercedes, it was poorly played. All right, green light on the safety car. Going to let these guys around, let the grid form back up. Going to see a lot of folks go around the safety car. But we've also seen some desync issues with the safety car. Safety cars just disappearing and driving off track, driving into the ground, going inside another car. So drivers have to be very, very careful as they approach the safety car. Most of these cars should be able to get back around. Who's still out on hards? Mike Rehill, Fanner can both come in and take advantage of the safety car. Duncan McCamick opts to stay out on the hards because, again, folks, he had the chance to dive in, but he doesn't have a set of medium tires. We're going to go about 3 laps, 2, maybe 3 laps here under the safety car. So going on to the softs maybe is right at that brink of it might not be worth it on the last 2 laps.
Yeah, this is really tough because I think 14 laps on the soft tires is really tough. We see Zarky go in there now. To the pits, but I think 14 laps is just about at the end of it, so I'm curious if any of these front guys come in.
So is this strategy, Mercedes saying, Maxime, you're basically out of this race anyway. Let's put the pressure on Red Bull because now he is going to have Luke Locklear on a fresh set of medium tires, breathing both down the neck of both him and Jeffrey Lawler. Major Castleman is not out of this. Eric Carvalho can now come into the pits, but he's got to be very careful. He has to pit now, but how many spots does he lose? Major Castleman into the pits. Interesting. Okay, Major Castleman, is he going to come in for a set of softs? So right now it's Hudson Poole, Jeffrey Lawler, Luke Locklear. See how far down these guys fall. Jason Pelter up into P5. Aaron Altmaier. So right now it looks really good if you're Joel Guron, because right now Jeffrey Lawler, Aaron Altmaier, P2, P4. There's Duncan McCamick up into P6. So it is the soft tires for Major Castleman. Medium tires for Eric Carvalho, who comes out in P8. No, P9. P10, he drops all the way down. So the long gamble worked out in as much as the safety car happened, but it happened at the wrong time for the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, I would worry about someone like Castleman and Era making up a lot of ground on the restart. There's a lot of time left, and they're going to be babying those tires around with a safety car. I think they'll probably make it to the end. Castleman may be kind of on the fringes towards the last few laps of this race, but I think the driver in the best position right now is actually Luke Locklear. Those mediums don't, 4 laps old, but are they really, right? They really went through 2 laps of actual race speed before getting him up. And so he's going to have a distinct tire advantage on Hudson and Dago. I would look out for him to make
not
a huge
just
impact on the end.
And not just on the youth or the grip level of the tires, but the ability to get the heat back into the mediums. Because if he is able to back up a little bit of this distance here, and Aaron Altmaier, Jason Pelter are not able to get any temp into those tires, then he's going to have 0 pressure from behind, and he's going to be able to help his teammate if everyone in that gap there is backed up a little bit. Because Major Castleman, he's just got to take it easy for these next 2 laps, and when he thinks it's about time the safety car is going to be coming in, then start trying to fire up those tires. He's not going to be weaving this whole time, because all you're going to do is start to grain those tires, and you got to go through that graining phase. You're going to lose all that grip. So Major Castleman is just going to chill for this lap and the next until he thinks the safety car is about to come in, and then he's going to put a bunch of work into those tires, fire them up, and we can see Major Castleman get 3 or 4 overtakes within 2 laps.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Dago, of course, with that 3-second penalty, or at least I think it's 3 seconds too. Let me go to the details here. Yeah, it looks like it's just 3 seconds at the moment. Not sure how many warnings he may have around the track, but I mean, the safety car, he's certainly at risk for the podium going away.
Yeah, Wild Fury in the chat saying that softs will only last about 8 to 9 laps. So if we go green flag at the start of lap 26, that is exactly the window. So this may be a big brain move from the Alpines. The Alpines are going to be scoring massive points here. Even if they still are sat in P3 and P9, that's still great points when their main rivals are Aston Martin. That's cool. They're doing fine. They're ahead. McLarens, you got one in P5, one in P16. The AlphaTauris in P7 and P15. So Alpine has a great chance to score a bunch of points, but also let's don't forget Ian Kreger down in P8. Peter Giordano all the way down in P12, so they have a chance to take great points off Ferrari as well in this.
Alpine has certainly been a team to watch, I think, for the first 2 weeks, and I don't do that as a slight to Raz, because I actually really like Raz, but Thermo has just changed the entire vision of the group. And I wonder if it's something to be said that when your team principal is the top driver on the team and one of the top drivers in the league, right, if that kind of helps rally the team around. Of course, they have an alliance with a lot of Mercedes guys as safety cars in this lap, but I think Thermo's done a great job so far with the team, and they've been really fun to watch. Safety car going in this lap. Hudson, it looks like, I'm not sure if you're working right now, Revis, but Hudson got a big start there on Dago, followed by Luke Locklear, currently in P3. So we'll get with Luke, currently behind Dago. He didn't get as much of a jump on Dago as he probably wanted. It looks like there's a ghosted hot. There's a little bit of contact on Dago. Runs it, almost spins him out going into turn 1.
These two had a little bit of a scrap in Bahrain last week. Not really fans of one another, not fans of sharing the track space, but excellent racers. And here we go again with another great start. Sorry, folks, stepped away for just a minute. Thought we had another lap under safety car, and I did what I told you to do earlier. I got myself some tater chips because I've been sitting here not eating and barely drinking anything. But really great start from Luke Locklear. Had the run on Jeffrey Lawler. Jeffrey made it a little bit wide. Didn't really give him an opportunity here, but look how he just sucks up to the back of him. So much grip, and also Jeffrey dealing with that dirty air from that Haas right now. That's going to be a big play to help Luke Locklear, who's easily getting temperature into these tires right now. As long as that Haas sits there in the way, there's the potential that Dago is losing. Okay, the Haas is AI, obviously, because he just jumped out of the way. So here we go. Down in turn 1. We will not have DRS this time around. DRS will be enabled at the beginning of the next lap. But look at Luke Locklear. Just able to just brake so much later. Going to be able to get the traction down here. Now, Jeffrey Lawler, Dago is no slouch. He's going to be able to pull away just a little bit, but it's going to come right down right now to the exit into the setup. What does Luke Locklear have? Dumping ERS. Stops dumping, actually. I figured he would dump it all the way until he got into 8th gear. Can he be brave on the brakes? Can he make a move here? No. He is going to wait just another lap or two. The danger there is waiting like that. Going to let Jeffrey Lawler get those tires fired back up and into the window, and now you're on a more even scale.
I'm on with Major Castleman, who just outbraked Razor into turn 1 and made the pass into P9. So he's got those soft tires. Again, he's got to baby them a little bit, but Revis, that's a balance, right? I mean, he has such an advantage now. He's really got to try to milk it for all it's worth and make them work as hard as they can, too, to get up position. So, you know, as good of a strategy it looks like to the end of this race, they're probably going to make it. He's got to make these overtakes now while he's got the advantage.
Well, Captain Overcut and Non Trivedi had a bit of a moment, dropped about 4 spots there. He's all the way down into P16. So Haas boys running P16 and P17 will be outscoring 1 Mercedes and 2 Williams. So we talked about Maxime getting his new setup. I'm guessing something didn't show up yet because he says, for heck's sake, my hecking wheel. So another disconnect as Major Castleman has a fastest sector 2 and is all over the gearbox, and that's Graz around. Aaron Altmaier from P9 in the race spun around the same spot that Max Verstappen spun this morning. There's no water on the track, so we cannot blame the water. That is down to either driver input or just a little bit of a bad line there. And here comes Major Castleman down the outside. Ian defending the inside. Going to have the better grip here is Major Castleman. He's going to have the inside if he can keep it alongside. So he will have the inside coming down into turn 2. Here comes Major Castleman. Easy move. Easy done. Going to have a little bit of a dirty air here from the Haas there of a Fanner. And they're going to... he's going to be on the attack here for Eric Carvalho. So Major Castleman, Eric Carvalho looking to take the spot from Duncan McCamick. Potentially Jason Pelter as well on these new soft and medium tires.
I want to talk about how good of a move that was by Castleman, going on the outside in turn 1, knowing that Ian was also dumping ERS with you and going to defend hard on the outside to make sure that he had the advantageous line on the inside of turn 2. That was just putting on a clinic, Major Castleman, an aggressive overtake, so I really like it. Quick, clean, and effective. The one disadvantage going for him here is he's gone through 70% of his battery. He had about 80% when the safety car ran out. He's currently at about 11. He's used a lot of ERS to make 3 overtakes happen. We'll see if he can balance out some more as the race goes on.
Duncan McCamick at risk of being overtaken twice here. He will not have DRS this time around. Eric Carvalho will. Here comes the Mercedes driver. Duncan dives down the inside to protect that inside. Major Castleman watching from behind, sucked up back to the back of that Red Bull. Can it be 2 spots lost for Duncan McCamick? Major Castleman, a little bit of a slide there on exit in this DRS zone. Did not have enough to make it happen, but look how quick he sucks up to the back of that Red Bull. Duncan McCamick at a huge disadvantage here. He's got to be watching those mirrors. He's already lost a spot out to a Mercedes, which I know hurts his heart. But to lose out to an Alpine as well is going to hurt his pride.
As these laps go on, we'll see the soft tires DEG start to actually take effect. So if I'm someone like Jason Pelter, I'm looking to keep that 3-second gap to Dago if I can, and maybe be in line for a podium, right? That tire advantage has got to wear out somehow in this last bits of race. So if he's got any hope of staying with the podium, he's got to close that gap to Dago.
Hey, 1 second gap. Luke Locklear to Hudson Poole. He will have the advantage of the DRS as long as he's out. Just fallen with outside of the 1 second. Back inside. Here they come through the detection zone. The detection zone coming up in 3, 2, 1. There it is. He is within the 1 second. He's got the DRS. It is almost a second gap though. That is huge. And on this main straight, it's just not quite long enough for that to make any sort of advantage. And actually, Luke Locklear not making up the advantage he thought he would here. Eric Carvalho with the fastest lap on a set of medium tires. And Duncan McCamick has now lost that spot out to Major Castleman. He's dropped down to P7 and potentially under strike here from Ian Kreger before too much longer as well.
Yeah, I'm with Luke. Just doing a quick battery check. He's been using a lot of it to try to keep pace and pass Dago and a lot of the guys up in the front. Hudson Poole, meanwhile, calm and collected. 60% ERS remaining.
All right, so we got Razor Center, Peter Giordano, Cal Labib, and Jack Pemberton right there. So a pair of AlphaTauris and a pair of Alfa Romeos doing some good midfield battling right here. Cal Labib made up a bunch of spots here. All these guys on even tire strats, but they got to watch out for leaky valve. Yeah, it's slightly older mediums, but still, a good time. Oh, Duncan McCamick, 3-second time penalty. So advantage to Ian Grigger, last week's race winner, well within that margin. Razor Senna has to see that and start thinking, can I cut 4 seconds out of this and cost him another spot? Ian Grigger also has a 3-second penalty, so nothing doing there as far as taking that spot from Duncan. That's a mistake on my part.
Yeah, Cal, what a recovery drive so far, and that's why he's sticking it. You just never know what can happen towards the middle and end of the race to put yourself back in contention. He's quietly moved his way up the field. Safety car happened, and now he's realistically fighting for a top 10.
Another guy fighting for a top spot here is Major Castleman behind Jason Pelter. Eric Carvalho was able to get that move done. Jason Pelter on the slightly older tires, up 10 spots since the start of the race. Our big winner thus far in the race is the Gator. Started all the way back in P15 up to P5. This is the guy who told me before the season started, somebody's going to make a mistake and they're going to let me fall. And he's fallen to McLaren, and he's doing a great job, is Gator.
Yeah, it was an incredible driver for me last season. Great to see him here at the top of D1 where you kind of know he belongs. Remember, he's doing this on 14-lap old hards, right? He's on the same strategy as the leaders here. And it's going to be hard to hold off Major Castleman, but I think it's a realistic shot at a top 6. It'll be a great showing. There's a yellow in Sector 2. Looks like Zarky again is around. He's having a little bit of a rough time.
Yeah, Haas has had a very rough season thus far. Oh, Major Castleman, a little bit of a wheel spin here. And so he loses a little bit of that advantage he had to Jason Pelter. But 4/10 back on the better tires. If he can get the better exit here, Jason Pelter immediately moves to the inside to defend that inside line. Major Castleman has no problem going around the outside. Not going to be able to get it done here, but he's going to have another nibble at the DRS here. Really good exit, very even scales here. DRS flap wide open. Jason Pelter will probably move to defend the inside. Fanner decides he's had enough, decides to retire in the pits. Should not bring out a VSC or a safety car as we have 4.5 laps remaining here.
I'm on board with Luke taking a look at that gap. Hudson has actually extended it. He's on paper what should be a not as advantageous tire strategy, and he's extended the gap to Thermo in P2. So Hudson really doing a nice job at stretching himself out from the rest of the field. He's looking good.
Wild Fury in the chat letting us know that the soft tires appear to be falling off for Major Castleman. That's correct. 8 laps on him so far. Granted, 2.5 laps or so were under safety car. Might have been 3 laps. So really only 5 laps on him, but depending on how hard you're pushing, 1 lap can be as busy as 6. All right, Jeffrey Lawler onto the main straight behind Luke Locklear. Tire advantage starting to be negated here for Luke Locklear. They're basically on the same tires at this point, as these tires are starting to reach the end of their useful life as far as the advantageous grip And here comes Jeffrey Lawler. Can he do anything under the DRS? ERS is not a factor. They both burn through so much battery here as we see that Alpine's light flashing, flashing, flashing. Not a rain light, folks. For those of you that don't know, it does function also as a rain light, but that is to let the driver behind know that they are recharging. As a spider crawls across my wall, they're recharging the battery right now because that means he has dumped as much ERS as he can to try to defend this spot. But it's Hudson Pool right now with a 2-second gap. Jeffrey Lawler and Luke Locklear, the more they fight here, the further the Hudson Hornet can get away.
Yeah, I'm on with Ian Krieger right now, who's trying to put some pressure on Duncan McCamick in P7. They both got 3-second penalties that will even out, and that gap between Ian and Razor is increasing. So their positions may be roughly secure if they can sort this out on track after all the penalties.
So we mentioned earlier Luke Locklear taking over as the Alpine team president. We mentioned Raz, the interim president. But we got to give a big shout out to our boy in the chat, Adam Klein, Mr. Zach Brown, promoting from Alpine up to McLaren. He's the one that really got the ball rolling for Alpine. He had those early top picks in season 3 and made some season 2 made some very, very wise decisions and put some good drivers in some good seats. And here we are, Alpine doing great work in part as we miss the pass. Here we go. It is action time, folks. Down to the last 2 laps, and we're going to do it once again. It's Jeffrey Lawler and Luke Locklear. It's going to be the advantage to Jeffrey Lawler, who does take the spot into turn 1 now through turn 2. What can they do? The grip is starting to fall off for Luke Locklear, and there goes Dago. He's gone. Says goodbye to Barbados, says goodbye to Luke Locklear.
As we're watching that, just as much action going on in P7 and P8. Ian has made the pass stick through turn 3, now holds P7 over Duncan McCamick in P8.
Oh, a little bit of wheel bang, a left front to right rear. Duncan McCamick on Ian Krieger. No love lost between these two. Ferrari versus Red Bull, they fight just as hard as anybody against Mercedes. So, yeah, got to be a little ticked off there if you are Duncan McCamick. 3-second time penalty for Graz down to P13. So the Aston Martins were running up near the top. Aaron Altmaier had that little bit of a moment earlier, and then gets this penalty. Gonna lose that spot on penalties to Mike Rehill, the leaky valve. So it'll be advantage McLaren there. So the McLarens will end up with the with more points, I believe. Have to do math on that, and I'm not good at math this late at night. But Mike Rehill gonna score some extra points there as Aaron Altmaier picks up that penalty.
Yeah, his race certainly changed in a second after a little bit of spin after the safety car. He was looking like he was in contention for a top 5, was Aaron Altmaier, but now he's just fighting to hang on to a couple points.
Yeah, so the field's spread back out. There's no more tire advantage for most of these drivers. We see Jeffrey Lawler already made up half a second on Luke Locklear and still just going to be increasing that. Luke Locklear able to stay close through the DRS. Major Castleman not able to get close enough to Jason Pelter to make anything happen. 11 laps now on those soft tires, and this is what we talked about earlier, folks. Not having that second set of mediums, because a second set of mediums right now, Major Castleman will be able to push and push and push and make this overtake, I believe, much more easily than he is at the end of the life of the soft tires.
Yeah, I was on with Cal, who was putting a lot of pressure on Peter Giordano down the pit straight on the last lap. He's since lost a couple more tenths. He's following behind him, but although Cal will have P10 after penalties, I think he wants to settle this on track.
Absolutely, Cal doing a great job. We got all his stands in the chat and cheering. They're up on their feet. We'll show Cal just here in a second. We want to see if anything happens here in P3 and P2. Now, Luke Locklear is going to inherit this position regardless. So he's just thinking, I don't need to fight anymore. I just need to stay close. As long as I can stay within the DRS, I'm P2. I'm the second to top step, and I have done my job on the alternate strategy. Eric Carvalho, also right there. Is this the first Mercedes podium of the season? Find out in just a few minutes, folks.
Yeah, I think he'll be watching those deltas really closely as they enter the last lap here. That was actually a quick end of the race. All of a sudden, here we are, lap 35. But Ari is keeping a sharp eye on the delta between himself and Thermo, and of course Thermo and Dago to try to overcome that penalty. He may be in line. Could be what, P3. Be a nice finish for Merck.
All right, Razor Center loses the spot out to Peter Giordano. So Peter and Ian started out P3, P4 in the race, had a couple of incidents, couple of spins, just a really rough beginning of the race. But look at the fight from these Ferrari boys all the way back. It's Boat Boy and Cape Cod and doing a great job here. And right now they are splitting the Duncan McCamick sandwich. And good work there from the Fiats. But the big story is up front. It is the Hudson Hornet up 3/10 on his best lap as he comes around through the penultimate turn and the final turn for one last time. It was not an easy win. He lost a lot of spots earlier and he had to fight back. Good strategy call with the undercut from Ethan Patel made that happen. So it's Hudson Poole with the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. What a lap from Hudson Poole to win this race. Luke Locklear to P3. Eric Carvalho! Rhapsody into P3 with his first podium. The first podium for Mercedes in Division 1. Jeffrey Lawler into P4. Jason Peltzer, the Gator, into P5. Major Castleman on the soft tires. Couldn't do any better than P6. But still, that's great job for Alpine. P2, P6. Ian Krieger up into P7. Takes a spot from Duncan McCamick. Duncan into P8. Razor Senna, P9. And welcome Cal Labib to P1, or to Division 1. P10, great showing for the AlphaTauris. Jack Pemberton to P11, great recovery from him. Peter Giordano drops down to P12. Disappointment for the Ferrari team principal. Mike Rehill, the leaky valve, up into P3, P13, and Mr. Overcut, Beamer NG, Anand Trivedi into P14. We'll get the rest of the results here in just a minute. And Forza Abdul in the chat says, "Sup, boys? LMO, I'm late." Yeah, you're super duper late, son. We're going to have to talk about that. I might have to write you a truancy ticket. Driver of the day, didn't see it. I'm guessing it was Jeffrey Lawler, a.k.a. Dago. And there he is, the Hudson Hornet, strutting his stuff, makes a little bit of eye contact, says, "What's up, baby?" through the camera. And there he is on the top step. So it is a Red Bull, Alpine, Mercedes podium here at the Hungaro Ring. We're going to wait for these drivers to join us in the chat momentarily. Got a lot of pings in the Discord. I'm not reading those right now. We'll get to them in just a little bit as the drivers do their dance, sing their song, spray their champagne, and say goodbye to the Hungaro Ring. Happiness, heartbreak, decent racing, and my spider just walked by again. Not a bad night. So it's Hudson Poole from Luke Locklear, Eric Carvalho, the Brazilian, Rhapsody up into P3. Jeffrey Lawler, Dago, had a good chance to win this race because the penalty drops down into P4. Jason Peltzer, the Gator, into P5. Major Castleman on the alternate strategy with the extra stop for the softs up only into P6. Ian Krieger, great recovery into P7. Duncan McCamick, P8. Razor and Cal, the teammates, P9, P10. Jack Pemberton, P11. Peter Giordano, Mike Rehill, and Antrevedi, Aaron Altmaier, and Jordan Angus round out your finishers. And we say goodbye early on to Fanar from Haas. Maxime, whose wheel apparently Maxime's the new Ian. He's going to have the wheel disconnects every race, it seems, until the rest of the new gear comes in. Tom Hatcap and Eric Perez, both the Williams, out very early into this race. Disappointing night for them. So we're going to wait right now. Just another moment. Here's Eric Carvalho. And man, it is about dadgum time because I have been waiting and waiting for a good result from one of my Division 1 drivers. Oh dear, I just totally screwed that up. We're doing this whole deal again, but it is Rhapsody. Eric Carvalho is here, and that is a podium, dude. How are you feeling?
So there was no way to make something more. But before my tires reached the overheating limit, I was the fastest car in the track. The car was great on that medium tires. I knew I even could challenge Hudson because my tires were better. It was new tires against hard used tires. But overall was a really good result, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm super pleased as the team principal for Mercedes. This is the results I've been waiting to see. We know once again Maxime still on the old wheel, has most of his new gear. Another disconnect and a super unhappy chat. I'm sure that was frustrating to hear that go down, but you kept keep your head down, kept focus, and it's a podium. So good job, dude.
Thanks, Toto. Yeah, I hope to deliver better results soon. I'm still missing something on this car, on the 22 car. I'm leaking some pace to the last season, so when I understand better the car, when I know when I'm missing there, I know there's gonna be much more challenges for the win.
All right. We hope to see more of that because the more drivers we have up front fighting for these positions, the more exciting this is. And I'm so glad to have you. And congratulations on the podium, dude.
Thank you, Toto. Thank you, everybody.
All right. We are
Nice
going
job,
to
Aaron.
now talk to the man that we expected. And dude, we missed a great call in the first start of the race. You were absolutely flying, and then we had some desync on my end where I saw you drop all the way down to P17 on my screen. But apparently, you got another great start, and it's another podium for the Alpine team principal and D1 race start extraordinaire. It's Luke Locklear, dude. P2. How you feeling right now?
Dude, I am feeling great. Oh my god, Dago and Hudson was so much faster than me. And I was holding on for dear life. Midway through the race, me and Major decided to swap positions because he was quicker than me on the mediums. And we tried to try our best to drag each other around, get positions. I had a phenomenal pit stop timing. Like, that probably saved me the P2 for that race.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys.
Luke, it was.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, Luke. I want strategy. We had a fun time going back and forth in Divi on Tuesday, and I'm curious how your strategy evolved during the week. Did you ever consider going hard to soft, or the way your pace was hard medium always the play?
So with our setup and how we designed it, overheating is a big problem around Hungary.
Yep.
So how we tailor made my setup is that I need to keep the tires in a window, and I'm not going to be the fastest, but I'm definitely going to be quick enough. So the softs are just a tire I can't touch. Like, I literally
it.
can't touch those, or else I'm done. Overheating immediately.
Yeah. Well, you had incredible pace on the hards and the mediums. That was fun to watch. There was only two guys, two or three maybe, on the alternate strat today in Hungary, and two of them on the podium.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the unsung strat. I think it was very strong, and I think I could have done it a little bit better. Sadly for Major, he got held up by back marker car and stuff like that. So sad to see not an Alpine double podium, but hopefully you'll see one next week in Miami.
You were close. It's coming.
Yep, you guys have definitely been on one, and you've definitely put the league on notice that even though you're an Alpine and what should be a mid bin pack team, and you're putting it on the Hondas, you're putting it on the Ferraris, and luckily not putting it on the Mercedes too hard yet. But you've been kind of gentle there, and I appreciate the little fake alliance that we've made here. So man, it's another one for you. Good job, Luke, and hopefully we keep seeing you in here, bud.
Awesome. See you guys.
All right, talk to you later. And here he is, the defending champion, the guy that thought he definitely deserved a win last week, but he is back on the top step in a Red Bull. It is the Hudson Hornet. Hudson Pool, that was an interesting race. It looked like the undercut is what got you the win. Now, granted, it's your skill, your driving did the work, but the undercut really paid off from our end. Is that what you guys saw?
Yeah, I mean the mediums, I was overheating. I couldn't drive at all with the mediums, and my engineer told me to pit for hards with the undercut and see if I can get Dago, and it definitely worked. So I think I undercut him with like 2 seconds around there, and yeah, the undercut really paid off.
Yeah, after the safety car, Hudson, it looked like for a second, Thermo was on the medium tires behind you, and you were on the hards in front, and that gap was closing a little bit before it started to get big again. So were you kind of watching that interval timing and making sure, did you ever think his tires were going to last for him to be able to push you to the end, or did you know you pretty much had it in the bag?
Yeah, I mean he was gaining kind of a lot, and I was just saving my ERS because real only overtaking spot is that straight. So if I just keep my ERS and use it on that straight, if he tries to attack me, I can defend. And
Yeah, you had a lot. Yeah.
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 So once you got the undercut done, and there were some moments there that it looked like it was going to be close at the end. But did you have any concern at all that he was going to be able to overtake, or did you kind of know that once you got in front of Dago, that was it was a wrap?
Um, well, when Thermo overtook Dago, he was looking pretty rapid, and I was like, kind of wary. But then he kind of started to drop off because I mean the mediums, at least for me, didn't do great at all, and uh, the hards lasted way better than the mediums did.
All right. Well, we're back to form for you. Eric Carvalho, first time challenging for a podium here. So we've got Red Bull, we've got Alpine, we've got Mercedes, we've got Aston Martin. This is a little bit different scene this season than it has been in past seasons. Do you still really like your chances to repeat as driver champion and as constructor champion at Red Bull?
Of course. Duncan got a decent P8 finish, so that'll help us in the constructors. He could have gone a bit higher, but safety car didn't work out for him there in the end.
Yep, always
Classic
disappointing.
second driver.
Classic second driver, yeah. Always disappointing when the strategy doesn't fully go your way, but it went mostly your way this weekend. And so congratulations on yet another win, Hudson Pool, and we'll be talking to you again very soon, I believe.
Thank you.
Congrats, man.
Yep.
All right, that is it for us. That is us done with Hungary, and we've got to figure out what is going on with these overlays because this is just absolute trash right now. But oh god, my face is big. Nobody wants to see all that. Let's see if I can do a little bit of wiggling and jiggling. Well, yeah, I probably don't want to see me wiggle and jiggle either. That's get us a NC-17 rating more than likely. So, but that is it. That is Hungaroring. That is it in the books. One of my favorite tracks in a GT3 car. Not actually my favorite in the F1 game. A lot of drivers don't like it, and I think in part is because it has some of those similarities to Monaco. Very narrow, very twisty track, hard to overtake. Only saw a couple of overtakes into turn 1 and turn 3. So these guys are going to be very happy to move on. And we're going to be on to another track that I'm going to look up here shortly because, I like to look up things at the very last moment. But Buffalo Trace, Miami, yes, we're going to be back into the United States of America. Miami was our first community race that we did when the new game dropped. We everybody jumped in, no idea what they're doing, don't know the track layout, don't know anything about setups, and had a good time there. Saw some early pace and a lot of guys showing off for what were going to be their future team principals. So, going to be very interesting to see what happens in Miami. How many laps do you think you've done there? Do you think it's a track that these drivers are going to get a good handle on quickly?
I think they are. I think me personally, I've maybe only done around 50. But I think that this was a hot track when it came out because it was new. So I'm expecting a lot of drivers coming up to the race that'll have maybe 150, 200 laps before they get in the seat on Sunday night. Yeah, I definitely think so, right? You have a couple practice races, and that's 60 right there, right? Not to mention all the TT that I know these guys like to sweat about. But I think really excited for next week because this is our first official sprint race with the template actually built into the game, right? So with F122, we're allowed to have the actual sprint race format. So this will be the first one at ZRL, if I'm remembering correctly, where we'll actually be able to use the in-game template, have a proper sprint race, and be able to do that all in one lobby, save for desync. But a lot of excitement in Hungary. I actually like the track. I know a lot of people don't, but I enjoy it because I think you have to be on your toes the entire time. Very technical, and you got to be focused 100% through everything.
Yep. So that's going to do it for us. Good results for several different teams and misery and heartbreak for many more. But that is just another week of racing here in Zoom Racing League. We're back next week in Miami, as Buffalo Trace said. And we are going to bring you all the action starting again on a Friday night with Division 4, Saturday afternoon with the Xbox Division, Division X on Xbox. So if you're watching right now and you're thinking, I'd love to race with these guys, but I don't have a PC, but I do have a console. If you're on Xbox, join us for Division X. There's always a couple of seats there open as people are in and out. We had a lot of the Brits missing this weekend, and hope to get those back very soon because 2 of my drivers are British for Mercedes in the Xbox. Saturday night, we fire it back up with Division 3, Division 2 just after that, and then we have the holy day set aside for the best of the best, the fastest of the fast. It's Division 1 here in Zoom Racing League, and we can't wait to see you next time. Good night, folks.